Hello and welcome to the M Word, where we have uncensored conversations on all things marketing. We're your hosts, Jennifer Mulchandani
and Heather Michaelgard. For Season 2, our conversations are focused on brand. Listen in for ideas you can use for your brand. Enjoy today's episode. On today's episode, we are talking with J.D. Spain Sr., a retired combat veteran who served in the United States Marine Corps for more than 26 years and is a passionate community advocate focused on civil rights. J.D. is serving a second term as president of the NAACP Arlington. Under his leadership, the branch grew from a few hundred to over 1,000 members.
Our conversation weaves topics of brand with personal intention, history, leadership, and being authentic. We can't wait to have JD back again to continue today's conversation. Enjoy. Hey, I'm so sorry our microphones today don't seem to be recording great. I apologize for the scratchy sound quality, but thank you for listening in. Welcome to the M Word, JD.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing great. We're so glad you're here and on this rainy, yucky spring day.
Reminds me of my days over in Belgium. Yeah, real gloomy. Where's the sun? But yeah, it's Arlington. We get all 4 seasons here.
In a week.
JD, we're so glad you're here. When you hear brand, what does that mean to you?
So branding means authentic, genuine. Those 2 words kind of come to mind. I think we live in a time now where everyone's kind of reimagining their brand, but to me, branding means being authentic, being genuine, not changing, right? Who you are, what you stand for. That comes to mind.
So how would you define your brand, JD?
Oh, wow, that's a good one. My brand is just, I tell this joke, and I hope who's ever listening to this will get a little chuckle. I'm original like Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's just, I'm a Southern gentleman, and I believe that, in Southern culture, it kind of is part of me, and I think with that comes a level of not only respect and manners. It's just very calm, deliberate, but at the same time fun. So my brand is somewhat like that Southern culture, that Southern vibe. That's me. So,
well, that tells me kind of what your motivation, maybe a little bit of your, maybe it speaks to your core value. But how does that get expressed? If people are meeting you,
sure.
and how does that show up?
So my brand shows up in many ways. In how I lead, as a leader. Right, of the NAACP here in Arlington. Also, my time in the military, 26 years, I think I lead with a level of empathy, and I think you can correlate that directly to, my Southernness, right, and how I was raised. That's what people, when they come in contact with me, kind of say, hey, look, I'm direct, but at the same time, I'm understanding, I'm empathetic, and I contribute all of that to just my Southern roots.
So some might say here in Northern Virginia,
sure.
D.C. area.
Below the Mason-Dixon line, mind you.
Yes, but that is maybe not the vibe that is portrayed here. So how do you stay intentional? How do you bring that authenticity, that empathy? How does it show up to these events? And is it sometimes hard to maybe go off script or?
Yeah, I think what I do is, one, and I heard what you say about this area. I think everyone wants a person, I go back on this, someone who has a level of genuineness and authenticity. Regardless of the space that I may be in, how it shows up is how I interact, right? I have the courage to really stay true to who I am and my moral compass. And I think at the end of the day, given everything that's going on, not just in Northern Virginia, politics aside, right, I think that's what people look for. a person who is sincere and true to him or herself. And, as I lead, as I speak to folks and have these conversations, that's some of the takeaway that I hear, right? And that gives me some solace knowing that I don't have to change because other folks are changing. I can remain true to who I am. Everyone's not going to come on board and believe or like what JD may say, but I am who I am, right? And I think what happens is kind of like, I've heard this before, like keeping up with the Joneses. I don't keep up with the Joneses. I found that being who you are and being respectful goes a long way.
I think that's admirable and also aspirational for a lot of us who, want to. You use the word empathy, and I'm going to bring it back around to what you just said. But in terms of being aspirational, is navigating real life and all of the you said politics aside, but we can't necessarily move aside politics. We live in the environment that we live in. So when I look at where you show up in the community and that empathy, how does it, how intentional was it for you to start getting engaged in the organizations that you're engaged with, NAACP, right, and your own like civic leadership?
Sure. Again, I think I'm like a piece of dough. Or clay. I was molded, and it took many years for me to come to a point to where I'm at as a leader, and even this level of engagement. I tell folks, leadership is not anything you could just pick up on out of the book, in a book. But I've come almost full circle, and here in the community and in the NAACP, whereby our mission and objectives, they've been around and remained the same since for 113 years. This is just a snapshot and moment in time where there's some challenges, and I won't go to politics aside. I understand the dynamics of politics in our community, and I also understand the role of media in politics, and I also understand misinformation, disinformation. So what I try to, do in my conversations is kind of discern from all the inaccuracies and through my level of genuineness and people knowing who I am, gives just some have a factual based conversation, right? Understanding again that people think differently and people have, different perspectives and ideologies. I get that, but have respectable conversations. And again, this didn't just happen overnight for me. And I feel strongly that I have to be, in order to hone in your credibility as a leader. You have to be in diverse spaces. You have to be in those spaces whereby here, whether that's in civic associations or county government or the schools or speaking with your neighbors at the playgrounds or in organizational programs like Leadership Center for Excellence. You have to be in those spaces so you can really ascertain and understand the views of others, right? Because I understand my view is not the only view. But yeah, I get it. There's a lot of angst in America and in our community right now. And some will say that it's, in many ways, it's kind of dangerous, right? We've moved away from, in my opinion, speaking about facts, and then what are facts, not alternative facts, right? That's not how it was brought up. And so that, again, that's who I am and where I'm at.
So, JD, I'd love to talk about the NAACP. Mm-hmm. How would you describe their brand?
Yeah.
And is it where you think it should be? And what else could they do?
Sure. So the NAACP, and I'll speak at the national level and move to the state and then maybe to the local. NAACP has a rich, storied history with individuals like Thurgood Marshall and Ida B. Wells and Du Bois, and everyone, right, who and founders, many of whom were Caucasian, right, Jews, people, a lot of folks don't know this, right? That's how NAACP was founded. So our foundation, the very foundation of NAACP remains firm, remains solid today. And we have our principal objectives and mission. The state conferences here in Virginia are very engaged, and here locally, post George Floyd, what we saw was a significant increase in individuals in our community that want to be involved with an organization. Doesn't necessarily have to be the NAACP, but since my tenure in the past 3.5 years, we've seen our branch move from a little over 200 members to our last count was last week, 1,054. That's
wow.
Significant, yeah. And many of them.
How fast? How fast was that growth?
In since about 3 years.
Okay.
3.5 years. So I was voted in 2018. I started my term in January 1st, on January 1st of 2019. And then strategically, right, we brought the right people to the table based on unique skill sets and backgrounds, regardless of race, color, creed, and religion. And as a leader, I had these one-on-one conversations about, one, learning the history of the NAACP and learning how you can be engaged. So you took individuals who were members and you just put them to work. And you let them work. So yeah, about a 300% increase in membership, and we remain actively engaged. And anyone who lives in Arlington probably has seen the NAACP involved in a myriad of issues, whether that's literacy in our school education system, whether that's the housing issues that happened here last year, and going back to post-George Floyd to a community discussion on police practices. And what someone told me a long time ago, not too long ago, and I'm the impetus of the changing of the county logo and symbol, right? Where a few years ago I wrote an op-ed to the Washington Post, and I guess had to convince a lot of people as to why the old logo was not inclusive. Anyway, yeah, so we're doing well, and memberships are for a year, and what we've seen is people continue to renew their membership. That's a tell that people are appreciative of the organization that they are a part of, right?
That's right. So with that growth and knowing that when George Floyd's murder happened and the community was seeking opportunity to find new engagement, clearly you're keeping people, which is terrific. But did you find that there was any mismatch in terms of what the perception of the NAACP as a brand and what people's expectations of what that would deliver?
Yeah, there's still this perception that the NAACP is for black folks only. And I find myself even today having to convince a lot of my non-colored friends here that, hey, look, it's not just for colored people. So that's quite shocking to me. But I can peel that string all the way back to history and how history has been in so many ways. Many aspects of it has been removed from education system. So look, people again feel good about being part of the NAACP, and we challenge our members and we challenge our leadership to be thought leaders, right? And don't worry about the status quo, but look at the policies. Everything we do, it's not personality driven in this case, it's policy driven. And through that lens, that's how we're able to take on some of the most significant challenges in our community, because we're laser focused, we're measured, and we're deliberate on the issues, and we have the resident, the SMEs, right, the experts in the room at the NAACP who are volunteering their time and giving us really good information and perspective and insight. So, yeah.
I think we should pull the thread though on because the NAACP as an organization is it's not new. It's very well established, as you've indicated. And if we're sitting here in 2022 and you're saying that general community members, people in your own circles, still think of it as an organization that is only for a certain segment of society. What does that say about the brand or the challenge the brand has? And from where you sit, you're leading a local organization that's growing. How do you how do you move it forward so that isn't the perception?
So I think I can't do but so much as it relates to informing individuals about the history of the NAACP and who's represented there. Look no further than Arlington, and we do a good job of broadcasting and sharing who our leaders are. You can see it for yourself, right? But there's also something else going on in Arlington, and has been in many communities, such as a dense area like Arlington, is that there's a lot of competing interests. There's not just the NAACP in Arlington, right? There's many other equivalent-like organizations that have similar interests where people have to devote their time to. And it's almost as though who has the loudest voice in the room, right? But back to the NAACP, we're able to stand through the test of time a lot, living just on our name alone. Just on our name alone, regardless of who's at the helm. NAACP, 9 times out of 10, is going to have a seat at the table. The issue is whoever's representing NAACP, can they articulate a message or issue that's relevant on behalf of our people? So, to answer your question, what can we do to ensure more people in our community really understand that the NAACP is an inclusive organization? It's a work in progress. But this conversation has been going on for decades. And you have the folks out there, I believe, who just don't want to believe. That's why it was very important when I took over the NAACP, because heretofore, what you saw at the NAACP leadership was not a microcosm of our community. So I thought it was very important that when we bring in our new leadership team, that we were, in fact, and we project, right, what our community looks like. And that's what we do here. And our entire leadership team, people of all races, genders, are on our leadership team. And how you begin to build trust and, and credibility, because the individuals that are in leadership aren't just people, like we used to say down in South Carolina, people that just fell off the turnip truck. They've been around the block a little bit, and they have credentials. So if you don't believe it, I encourage folks to come and join. And we are continuing to do that. We're seeing folks come in every week who are questioning, hey, what can I do to be part of this? And strategically, we have to be mindful about the type of engagement we have. Years ago, the NAACP was all about marching in streets, holding up picket signs. We have to work smarter, not harder. You don't have to go out into inclement weather to get your point across or to change policy. It's a tactic. It's a strategy. One, you got to know people, right? You got to understand the issues. And then, in our case, you got to figure out whether there's factors that discriminate in many cases against groups of people. Now, I'm a former federal investigator, so I think I can figure that out a little bit. But then again, you get a consensus. And then you shape your message and you take on you have persuasive conversations.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, because you said a few minutes ago that you, as a local organization right here, building. You said you're building thought leaders, like your members. You're training them. So from a marketing and branding perspective, we often talk about communications training and building the message and getting your ambassadors, your members, to be on message. So how tactical is that? Is that more organic in the nature of your work, or is there we're having our quarterly messaging meeting?
So, great question. So NAACP national and our state level does have training from time to time about basic leadership and different types of civic engagement, how to engage. But I consider those very baseline events and trainings. Here at Arlington, I feel it's incumbent upon all of us, more especially me. It's almost like train the trainer. Mm-hmm. As a leader, I have a unique skill set. Does me no good if I keep it all to myself. So what it requires is some intentionality on my part to have to train some of their leaders, and that training comes in many forms. Hey, come with me to a meeting, watch how I engage. Let's talk about it afterwards, and then the next time around, we're going to put you in the spotlight and let you do it. Then we're going to talk afterwards, and we're going to measure and see how effective what the receptiveness is from your engagement. It's so many variables, and I know you're into this field, but there's a lot of things to monitor in this type of work, right? Anyone can go and have a conversation, but what is the intent of the conversation? What are you hoping to gain on the backside of the conversation, right? What are the tangible outcomes? Because if you don't have a tangible outcome, you're just talking to talk. So we have had many conversations on our leadership team about strategy and what are the next steps, whether it's in environmental climate justice, whether it's in housing, whether it's in criminal justice, whether it's in education, whether it's in political action, right? Whether it's in membership, how we're going to grow our membership, what part of town we're going to go in and stand up voter registration. Because it's not just about standing up voter registration, it's about being a beacon light in a community saying, hey, the NAACP is here. And then when we get the people there, who's ever at the table, need to have a conversation more than just about voter registration. It's about the benefits of being a part of this organization, what we've done. So, yeah, it's fun, but it's also tiresome. I'll be honest with you. I love it. It's a volunteer organization, right? But someone has to do it. And I'll be honest, everyone's not prepared to take on positions of leadership. I've learned a lot. I've not been perfect along the way, because perfection on earth is never obtained. But I'm just proud to report that we have done so much in the past 3.5 years, and I'm very proud of all of our leaders and our members. We are a beacon of light, I believe, in many regards, to not only other branches, but to people in our community. And they count on us to be their voice in a way that's very, we guard ourselves and be temperate, sometimes be discreet, but also agitate as accordingly.
Do you have a goal in your leadership that how you want to grow the brand of this branch of the NAACP locally?
When I first came on, came into office, I said, listen, at the time we had about 200,000 people in Arlington, and I said, I want to get our branch to 10,000 members. Mm-hmm. You know, I was just like, let's shoot for the stars, right? Now, realistically speaking, is that doable? Yes, but it requires a lot of work. In a volunteer organization where no one's getting paid, that level of strategy and marketing requires more than just volunteers. It requires full-time folks to get on, and we don't have that. But we did set a goal last year to reach 1,000 members total, and we did that. So yeah, we're goal-oriented in many ways. But I think it's just going to take time, and it's going to take our branch remaining active. Again, because we have so many competing interests. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these competing interests are good friends, an organization are good friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And I respect them dearly. I think of the Civic Association, Civic Federation, which is an organization that's been around here just as long as we have. In fact, longer than NAACP. But they have a reach, right, that's hasn't really been used in a way, and I'll leave that alone. They have 67 civic associations, but you have the hub here, and I would love, and so we joined about a year or so ago, the Civic Federation, and there's just so much potential there, but it's a craft to help shape that. We're all working together. Let peace and harmony prevail.
So, JD, I want to go back to you mentioned the Arlington County logo. So for our listeners who maybe aren't aware of what it used to be, talk to us about what it was and what was your role to have it changed, and what is it now?
Sure. So a friend of mine Dr. Emma Viola Sanchez, and she would not mind me sharing her name because we wrote the op-ed together, came to me as a leader of the NAACP and said, "Hey, JD, I've been trying to work on this logo thing, and it's just not working out. I'm not getting any traction." So we had a long conversation about, because I never really looked at it and paid much attention. I'm sure many people in the community did not. So after we had a conversation, I did my own research, and we started talking about it at the branch. So what ended up happening was the previous logo was a depiction of Arlington House, the Robert E. Lee Memorial. Now, we're not here today to have a conversation, a history lesson on Robert E. Lee, or Arlington National Cemetery, and having served in combat, I have many friends who were laid to rest on that sacred ground, so I respect the land. I respect the area. But the flag that was being flown was the symbol of a slave plantation. A slave plantation, of those who do their history, will understand that women were pillaged, raped, men were murdered at that time. And in no way, shape, or form should that image, right, regardless of what you may say or think it is, that replica should be flying high above our government or on our buildings. And it took some time to kind of convince folks in a persuasive way, and we brought in some experts, from Rutgers University to have conversations as well about this with some individuals in government. And soon, a little bit later, the county said, "Okay, listen, we'll put together this work group." It's always a work group in Arlington. And I was part of the work group, so I felt good that they asked me to come on. But it was a work group of about 20-some folks. And we went through many iterations. The community was involved. Many flags, suggestions, descriptions were sent in. And, end of the day, a new symbol was selected. And as I drove over here, actually, earlier, I was in a part of Green Valley. I saw our Arlington government vehicle that had the new logo on the side, and it makes me feel good knowing that our community was willing to change. And this had nothing to do with Julius or the NAACP. People listened, people understood, and the votes, at the end of the day, people who voted for the symbol, ultimately the county board, unanimously, it says that change can happen. And even though it was just a symbol, and like I said in the Washington Post article a few years ago, symbols matter. Mm-hmm. Just like words matter, right? So the county has moved forward in that regard, and I think we're better off. Now, if someone wants to change it in 25, 30 years to something else, well, yeah, but what was reflected before it was not reflective of the community that we live in. And I think, again, once you start learning the history of what happened, that's when it chills you, right? And so we have done a lot, and that was a branch and a community effort. No one was left behind in that. Now there was some disagreement with folks in the community, but that's okay. You're going to have that in a community of nearly 250,000 people. You're going to have disagreement. But again, we had a very convincing argument that no one could negate.
I think we could do a whole episode, and I'd love to have you back with some other folks who are part of that, so we can talk about the rebrand, because yes, there's passions on all sides around how, not the need to do it. I mean, although there's probably disagreement there too, but how it played out and where we netted out. So let's put a pin in that, because I want we could have an hour discussion easily.
Well, yeah. So a good friend of mine. So let's do it soon, because I think I'll just say we'll talk later. Let's do it soon. Time is of the essence to have that conversation. But there are some individuals We may be even able to bring in the professor from Rutgers University to call in, and we have a really good conversation about not just the symbol of the previous flag, but there's other issues. We could talk about monuments and pillars.
Mm-hmm. The name of our county.
Which was, I know, that question was asked of us.
Yeah.
What do you think about changing Arlington County?
Oh, wow.
What do you think about changing Wakefield High School? So you have to draw the line somewhere, and you have to crawl before you walk. Mm-hmm. I don't think, the community should resemble and have some rich history, but there's also a place for statues and monuments. It's called museums. My daughter went to VCU, she's still at VCU School of Arts, and, they removed the Confederate, and she stayed right on the block. I mean, you have to think, right, why was those symbols and statues and names, more especially in Virginia, put in place and schools renamed after Confederate folks? There's a reason why. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's another conversation to have, and let's have it. I'm for it.
Me too.
I'm down for it. That's a big good one. And I might learn something along the way.
So, JD, you've been in Arlington a while. You're very well connected. I'm curious, what are some of your favorite local brands? Who's doing a good job?
So, let me tell you, and don't take this because I know I'm over here. I'm going to tell you who's doing really good now. Kim Klinger and Columbia Pipe Partnership. I see where that's headed, and I think your team perhaps may have worked on that or someone, but I've seen them evolve over the past year and a half, 2 years. I saw how they were involved during COVID, and their brand is very, it's changed, it's different, it's receptive, it's inclusive. Whereas before, I was like, who's the Columbia, who's C-Pro? So I like the work they have done, and I also understand the importance of Columbia Pipe Partnership relative to the future of our community and our business partners, mm-hmm. right? So they have done quite well. Many folks that that see me on Facebook may say branding. Well, I'm not supposed to a lot of branding. I like Ruthie's. Ruthie's brand, and they're going to enhance themselves. I just spoke with some folks. They're going to do more. But with all the competitors around, when we talk about branding for restaurants, they were able to do something that brought in a lot of folks. And even during COVID, unlike other similar restaurants, and that's what drives me to them. I like their brand. I like it's for me. I said earlier, Southern guy, whatever culture, it kind of falls right in line with who I am. Every time when I go there, I feel like I'm back home somewhere. So, Columbia Pipe Partnership stands out. Ruthie stands out. Other brands here. There's a lot that have some works in progress. I know a couple of organizations that are in the early stages of trying to rebrand. I'm just watching them. The NAACP, we can use some level of rebranding perhaps at a local level, but we're restricted in many ways by our Constitution and bylaws because we can't change our logo. But there are things you can do on a strategic and a marketing way that's going to cost money to help your organization move out and do things a bit differently. So, excuse me, that's some good coffee.
Oh.
Let's just, hey, y'all, I'm having coffee. So, hopefully I answered the mail on that. Those two kind of stand out to me.
Yep.
I guess I'm giving a plug to Ruthie's, everybody.
Well, anyone who follows you on Facebook knows that you love Ruthie's and their Brussels sprouts.
And their Brussels sprouts, yes. Hopefully that's okay.
Well, JD, this was a very interesting conversation. I know we have to get going.
No. We got to have a round two.
We're going to do more.
We'll do more.
So how do people connect with JD right now?
Besides at Ruthie's for breakfast.
Yeah. Hey, so, come on over here. So there's a couple ways you can reach me. You can go on NAACP website, HTTPS, www.arlingtonnaacp.com. You can contact me directly, julius.d.spain@gmail.com. I'm not a politician, I'm a public servant, so I'll speak with anyone. julius.d.spain@gmail.com. I'm not sharing my cell phone number, y'all.
But your door is open.
But my door is always open. And again, what I love about what I do here at Arlington is just being able to speak with folks from all walks of life and regardless of socioeconomic background, and really getting to learn more about them, because that helps mold and help me as a leader as well. So that's me. That's how you reach me.
Well, obviously we only lifted the surface of so many topics that we wanted. We're just getting started. Exactly. If only people attention spans for longer podcasts, we would be here all day. But we will have you back, JD. We really appreciate this conversation. And
politics.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to open the beers instead of the coffee.
Why not? Left blonde.
There we go. Well, thank you again for being here, and thanks for listening to The M Word. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The M Word. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter.
And we'd really love it if you would leave us a review.
Until next time, don't be afraid to be uncensored.
The M Word is an Arlington Strategy production hosted by Jennifer Mulchandani and Heather Michaelgard. Our theme music is Golden Reflections of the Sun by Vlad Glushenko.
Graphic design by Kayla Fagan. Sound engineering and editing by Ben Mulchandani and Nina Sofia Pacheco.
Editing by Nina Sofia Pacheco and Janelle Walters.